Isaiah Joe, Draymond picked his pocket. Poole's got it. Poole will spin and finish. Oh, showtime.
Now, back to Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
All I want to say is it's been too long. It's been too long. That's it.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, it's been way too long since we've talked to Bobby Fitz about Warrior basketball. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it, Bob. How about that? How you doing?
Guys, you never write, you never call.
Seriously.
Where is the love?
I know.
Come on, man.
And we've actually talked, Mark and I have talked multiple times about the Igo family.
Nice.
And I know that you lived like 4 doors down from the Igos, and one of the Igos and I went to Europe together, and another Igo scared Mark out of the sport of baseball. And all Igos go through Bob Fitzgerald. I feel bad that we haven't called.
All right, I'm going to give you like the full rundown here. There are 5 Igo kids. There are 5 Fitzgerald kids. Our parents are like lifelong friends. If anything were to happen to our parents, the other parents were to take care of the other kids, which I always thought about, wow, we're going to have 10 kids in the family.
Wow.
That's a double Brady ass right there.
I've done a few things in my life with a headset, but the eldest Igo is a president for ABC Entertainment and ran Jimmy Kimmel's music department for 15 years. So love the Igos, and so any friend of them are a friend of mine.
So it's funny you mentioned the eldest Igo, because that's the Igo with whom I went to college and went to Europe, and he and I kind of scuffled our way through the early 90s together, and we both kind of joked about how, if this goes our way and that goes our way, and turns out he might have won that battle.
Well,
Bob.
and then he got Willard went to high school with one of my sisters, and so it's like it's
crazy.
So given all that, I get no love, no calls, no nothing.
That's on me, Bob. It's my fault, Bob.
How is Amy, by the way? How's she doing?
Great.
Beautiful.
All my brothers and sisters are incredible.
Beautiful.
I'm a big Paul fan as we go deep inside Foster City.
I was supposed to play golf with Paul today, but I had too many other things
You
going
guys,
on.
leave your Beatles opinions to yourselves. Let's talk Warrior basketball.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We don't, but we will. Bobby Fitz is with us. Hey, man, what do you think? I sort of threw this out off the top, and I wonder if you can direct fans maybe where they're supposed to be, right? You've got the positive Warrior fan who's like, look, championship DNA, I still believe this can happen. Then there's the other side that it's like, you don't win titles out of the 6th seed and win on the road the whole way when you've barely won 10 road games all year. What's a rational way to look at what's about to unfold?
Okay, well, the first thing is when you look at the regular season, lottery winners don't go and add 3 more jobs to their lives. It's just human nature. When you win 4 titles and you go to the finals in 6 years, it's hard to ramp up again. It's a short off season. You go to Japan. I mean, it's just, think about it. Anyone that really achieves huge financial success, they're not like, hey, I want 6 more jobs. Like it's human nature to put your feet up. Having said that, you also get everybody's come to Jesus game when they play you, because you are the team with all the rings and then the most recent defending champion. But if you want to be optimistic, you say 33-8 at home. That's even better than last year. And then the road, why do they lose on the road? It's self-inflicted. It's all turnovers, and it's all just lack of guarding opponent 3-point shooting. So if those get mitigated, as the Warriors now have won 6 out of 8 and started to be a top 10 defensive team in the last couple weeks, maybe they hit their stride with, let's see, Steph and Clay are better this year than they were last year. Draymond is better this year than he was last year. Looney is better this year than he was last year. Kuminga is better this year than he was last year. Dante wasn't even here, and he's been a great value add. And you got GP2 back, so Poole and Wiggins become the ultimate X factor. And if they're right when it matters, who's going to beat the Warriors 4 times in a 7-game series when half the games are at Chase Center?
I've been telling him this, Bob, and this guy's just so negative all the time.
Yeah, Captain Positive over here all the time.
I mean, it just brings me down how this guy's trying to wet blanket all of the possible scenarios. All that said, Bob, why are we now 80 games in still having to bite our nails at halftime of a game where OKC is running through the Warriors like a bad takeout meal on a toilet late night?
Well, that was inaccurate.
Too graphic, too.
Inaccurate.
Thank you.
Is OKC, and I said it at halftime, and it proved right. OKC was shooting 62%, but it wasn't like, oh, my God, they had 30 points in the paint. The Warriors had 28 points in the paint. Where it was unsustainable was that OKC was 13 of 21 outside the paint. So that's like, Dibs, when you and I par 3 holes in a row.
Oh,
that's not going to happen anymore. That is done. The next ball's going in the water or going out of bounds. And so it was just, if the Warriors had given up 50 points in the paint in the first half and it was a layup line, then he would have went, oh, God, what's going on here? OKC played the game or half of their life, and then they shot 40% in the second half and got run out of the building. So, that happens. There are hot shooting halves in the NBA. That's why Steve said perfectly after the game, 48 minutes is a long time. And that game flipped 25 points before it was all said and done. And at Chase Center, that seems to happen a lot.
Bob, are you doing any of the matchup stuff in your head? And I realize, look, they got
absolutely. Are you kidding? I've been doing that for 2 weeks.
Yeah, so they got to try to win. You can't mess around with this thing. But in your mind, what is the difference between the Kings and the Suns in round one?
Okay, well, I want everybody to do their little mental bracket here. Phoenix and then Denver versus Sacramento or the Lakers, because I think the Lakers would beat Memphis in round one.
Oh,
so do you want to go Sacramento and the Lakers and you have home court advantage, or do you want to go at Phoenix and at Denver? And I'll just let the Dub Nation, incredibly bright people that they are, decide which way to climb the mountain looks a little easier. And so now, guess who also knows that? The Clippers and the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
And now they play each other tonight. So the loser's going to have 39 losses, which makes Friday and Sunday incredibly interesting in terms of how this all finishes up. And I just think for the Warriors, you try to win Friday, Sunday, and if you get the 5 seed, you got the 5 seed. But if a tiebreaker pushed you into 6, Draymond and Steph already talked about the travel factor of just going to Sacramento. For NorCal, I would love Sacramento Warriors just for what it would mean for Northern California. I think Friday is the most meaningful game the Warriors and Kings will have ever played. Think about that, because they've never been in the playoffs in the same year, ever, in franchise history. So let alone the Kings are really good. The Warriors, okay, are they going to be good when it matters? Like, Friday night's game, I can't wait for it. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, we have said we can't wait for it for about 3 weeks now, and it's been fun to have these games on our air here on 95.7 The Game, and Friday, you're right, is no different. I'm not asking you to give inside information, but Andrew Wiggins, do you think he plays? Do you think that he needs to play one game before the playoffs? What are your thoughts on Andrew Wiggins now that we know that he's close to coming back?
Well, I think the one thing the Warriors have, and Rick Celebrini is, a savant on the physical side of stuff, because Steph had 2 significant injuries, and they ramped him up where he looked really good when he came back in both situations. GP2, after being acquired, had the core situation, and Rick's background is in the NHL. He's got 2 elite sons that are going to be NHL draft picks, too. So he got GP2 right with the abdominal thing, which can be really tricky. I think if Rick is evaluating Andrew, and I know he did yesterday and he will throughout the rest of this week, I think I leave it totally up to Rick. If he says, hey, no way, too much time off, you got to miss Friday, Sunday, which makes getting into the playoffs more important because you get a week off and you're not dealing with the play-in tournament, then I think you feel good about Wiggs for a first-round playoff. But if Andrew is in good enough shape, and he's not a guy that ever really gets out of shape, if he's in good enough shape that Rick says Friday or Sunday, hey, Steve, he probably could give you, 8 minutes each half, 16 minutes or something. I just trust Rick. I know Steve does too. And the physical evaluation of how the Warriors look at their players and their ready-to-play situation.
Great. Bob Fitzgerald is hanging with us here on Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game. Bob, we're talking to Steve Kerr here in an hour, and you can help usher us into a conversation I know fans want us to have, and that is, if Moses Moody's got that in his game, why didn't he play more earlier in the year? What would you say to a fan who's got that question today?
Well, I think we always play this when you have a super deep and talented team is, did you want Moody to play ahead of Wiggins? Like, because Andrew was an all-star last year and was the second best player through the playoffs, not named Steph Curry. Do you want Moses to play again instead of Clay? I think Clay's had an even better year this year than he had last year. There is no bigger Moses Moody fan than me. Like, none. But I do think that I trust Steve, where the way he brings along Kuminga, the way he has believed over the years in Looney, the way he has managed Steph and Clay throughout their careers, the way he deals with Draymond, and that is not easy. So I think I would tell fans, Moses is 20 years old. He should still be in college. The fact that he's ready last night when needed to play at that level is such a testament to the Warrior player development staff and Moses himself, because it's like a guy who doesn't bat, hey, I need you to DH today, and you hit 3 jacks. It's just, he's the Manny Mota of coming in cold and all of a sudden giving you good minutes. So I think Moses Moody's career is going to be wonderful. I just think he's on a super talented team that needs every single game, and so how Steve has kind of moved him in and out, and last night when he was called upon for significant minutes, he answered the bell like an absolute champ, and I would have expected nothing less because I think so much of Moses as a kid.
I appreciate the Manny Mota reference for those of us who
I'm going full demographic, wherever you want.
No, for those of us who partake in 70s and 80s pinch hitter baseball,
exactly.
that felt really good to me, Bob. I want to ask you about NBA officiating, because I consider myself not to be quite at your level in terms of officiating savant level, but I see something that's broken in the association. How do we fix it? The relationship between players and refs, and really fans and refs, and what we all need to understand about what goes on the floor.
Well, I think the first thing is, over the last 7-8 years, there's been an incredible drain of crew chiefs that have just retired. And they were all young officials together. They all became crew chiefs, and their careers all ended all around the same time. So you think of no Dick Bavetta, and then there's no Mark Wunderlich, and then there's no Steve Javie, and then there's no Bob Delaney. And then, you just start, then there's no Danny Crawford. I mean, you just start losing all these guys that are icons in the league all at the same time. So you have a very young officiating group. What do young officials want to do? They want to be active. They want to make calls. What they can't do is, this guy bumped him, but he still laid it in. Keep it moving. Let the game flow. Let the players decide it. Instead, the officials the no call has gone to die this year, which is the whole reason why scoring is up, because every freaking play is a free throw, and it gets ridiculous. And now to the point where the elite players, the super good players that know this, they just randomly jump into people all the time, and a lot of times get love and shoot free throws all the time. Like, that's what I appreciate about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's just really good. You can't guard him, and you foul him a lot. But there's also a lot of guys that just launch themselves into people all the time, and they're living at the foul line, and that's just not even basketball. Like, what camp does kids ever go to where the move is just to jump sideways into somebody all the time? Like, if you did that on a playground, one, they would never pick you for another team, and two, it's not basketball. So to long-winded answer to your point, you need officials to mature, and they will, just because we're just really young as a league right now with the guys and gals that are getting their chops. They're the best officials in the world, far better than college, far better than the stuff I see internationally for the Olympics and overseas and all that. So the best 50 or 60, what they do in the world, they're scrutinized like nobody's business, and their heart's in the right place, always trying to do the right thing. It's just that, to me, having been in the league 30 years, the no call, did the contact create an advantage? If it didn't, don't blow that whistle and let the greatest athletes in the world compete at the high level and to the level of enjoyment that we appreciate so much.
Okay, there's an imperative follow-up to that, but first you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HC1 San Francisco, always live on Twitch, YouTube, and the free Odyssey app. If all of that is true, Bob, then how are we, at least here in this market, having a conversation about a superstar who seemingly doesn't get calls? Like, why is the whistle not going on Steph every time he's going to the hole?
Well, to me, I've said it. I try not to say it as often as I do because I know people's probably fingernails on the chalkboard or it's a drinking game thing now. But Steph Curry gets the worst whistle of any elite player I've ever seen in my entire career. Not just with the Warriors or anyone else. If Steph Curry got Dwayne Wade's whistle, he'd average 45 points a night. And Dwayne Wade's going to the Hall of Fame, and deservedly so, but the bad breath fouls and the fingernail fouls that a lot of other players get, and the fact that Steph gets bounced around like a piñata and rarely gets any love from the line, it is maddening, it's infuriating, it isn't right, and he still plays through it like a total champion, and a lot of times I don't know how he does it.
At the same time, does Draymond Green get a kinder, gentler whistle, especially in times when he's got 5 fouls?
How tight Dibs was listening to that response.
No, and Bob's not wrong. I didn't refute Bob's point. Bob knows there are very few people in the association who know more about officiating than I do. Bob is certainly one of them. I'll ask you this, Bob. Does Draymond Green get a kinder, gentler whistle at times when other players would not get that same latitude?
Okay, now Draymond, I'm going to take you back to the bad boy Pistons.
Please do.
Chuck Daly used to say, if I foul you all the time, they can't call it all the time.
Right.
And so what happens is, if you got Joe Dumars or if you had Dennis Rodman or Rick Mahorn, if I'm physical with you all the time, then you know what? The officials are like, this guy's always physical. Willard, that guy, he's always bowing people up, and he's tough on rebounds, and he chests guys defensively. He's banging and bumping. When he commits a foul, it's got to really get past the threshold of I'm normally watching his game. Now, Draymond is an elite defender, one of the best the game has ever seen, and he's physical all the time. So when he's got 5 fouls, he's not going to back away where it's like no contact, contact, and then you're going to fall out of the game. He's going to keep playing at the same physical level. But Draymond also understands the principle of verticality. Draymond also is physical all the time, so doesn't stand out egregiously because you're used to his game. And then the other thing is when you're in the league 10, 11, 12 years, the officials get to know you and get to know your game, and absolutely veterans get more leeway than a younger player would. That's same thing with the strike zone, and Bonds by the last couple of years, if it was outside, umpires like, hey, it must be outside. Same thing with Ted Williams. But if Joey Bart lets a pitch go outside and it's called a strike, it's because he's a youngster and these umpires haven't seen him all that much. That's just a fact. And it's, if you think about it in life, your insurance agent, your best friends, a restaurant you go to a lot, there's always more love for familiarity in our lives. Always. And that's just how we are as human beings. It's no different in sports.
Bob, hot button topic that everyone seems to be buzzing about, which is Jordan Poole in the closing lineup. Why isn't it every time? Why does it look the way it does? Sometimes so good, sometimes bad. He's had some really good ones of late, but what's sort of your stance on A, why the Warriors do it the way they do, and then B, should Jordan just be in there every time?
Well, I think that's a good question for Steve because he's got to decide it. But I think Jordan, when he's on there, he could take a game over. I mean, we saw that from the Philly fourth quarter and so many of these fourth quarters at home. Even last night, Steph deferred to Jordan because he was so hot. So there are games, certainly, you want him to close. If it's a high turnover game or a highly inefficient shooting game and or the other team has someone that is taking advantage of Jordan defensively, then I think you have to go with a Dante or Clay and other guys given the certain matchups. So I don't think anybody other than like Steph and Draymond and Clay, I don't think you're on the finishing lineup no matter what, because there are times you'll see Kuminga or you'll see Looney. You'll see GP2 or you'll see Anthony Lamb. I mean, a lot of it is who are you playing, what's the circumstance, and what's the flow of the game? Is this a 22 turnover game where the Warriors are throwing the ball in the 8th row all the time? Or is this a, hey, Jordan's made 7 shots in a row and he's so hot you would never take him out of a game? So that's the art of what Steve does, and that's the art of closing and finishing games. And they've squandered games this year and given some of them away. And, in the playoffs, you just can't afford anything like that because one game can turn a whole series.
Bob, big question, maybe the most important question of the day. Who's your Masters pick?
That's a good one because the guys that play well there always have that kind of internal knowledge. So I'm just going to go full on because my heart wants what it wants. I want Will Zalatoris to win the Masters because he's finished second. He's finished 6th. He's my buddy. I love his family. I just played golf with his dad a couple weeks ago. I just texted with Will the other day.
Wow.
That's I've known him since he was 5 years old.
Okay.
That's
okay. Now you're piling on.
I followed him Saturday and Sunday at the British Open at St. Andrews with his family.
Okay, Bob.
I mean, that's
all right, Bob.
I'm
keep going, Bob.
blatantly pulling
seriously
for Will Zalatoris. That's the guy.
The name dropping right now. Somewhere Roxy Bernstein is blushing right now. You're putting on a clinic.
That's my guy. But
all right.
I would say, Scotty Scheffler, it would not surprise me if he repeated. Rahm always has a great chance.
Right.
And then just so the PGA will lose their freaking minds.
Don't do it.
What if Dustin Johnson
Don't do it.
wins? Because I'll tell you, they backed up 13, so it's so far now that only the true big hitters have a chance in 2. That a lot of guys are going to have to gear down and make.
You got to hit a draw on 13 too, as far back as that thing is.
Yeah, I mean that's a 3-shot par 5.
No
now,
doubt.
So I think if you go DJ Rahm, Scheffler, and then Will Zalatoris, I think out of that group you're going to have the winner.
Would you shoot at Augusta, Bob?
You know what?
Just while we're in the brag space.
I'm not going to give you an exact
number.
Come
on, Fitz.
I will just say surprisingly well. Let's just say that.
So it was a double-digit score.
What now?
It was not. It was not triple digits.
Dude, a lot of gimmies.
And there were
Pick it up, Fitz. Pick it up. That's good.
There were 4 pars on the back 9. I will say that.
The back 9's easy. That thing lays down.
Yeah. Well, the
cupcake.
The difference is if anyone talks about playing the Masters and playing Augusta and staying there and all that, just remember the members' tees. You could build a Costco between the members' tees and the championship.
It's kind of what the ladies played at the women's amateur. That's kind of what the members' tees are. You probably didn't watch it, but I was locked in. Mega Gane. Bob, I hate you. I'm so jealous.
Put it this way: the next time I play Augusta, I'll be looking forward to an even better score.
This guy.
Wow.
This guy.
Wow.
Can we run him now?
Wow. I think yes, we can.
Bob, Zalatoris and
enough of that, Bob.
We had brunch. I fed him baby food when he was in the crib. Harumph.
Hey, no,
I hate
you know
this
what?
guy.
And this is a true story.
I love him.
I taught Will everything he knows about golf.
Thank you.
Because I said, don't do anything that I am doing.
Nice, Bob. Nice.
If you go the full Costanza opposite day, you'll become a good golfer. And it worked.
Bob, I appreciate
the humility.
I appreciate your name dropping because I work with Dibs and he also drops names, but nobody's heard of the names he's dropping. So I really thank you for actually naming some people we've heard of. Thank you.
I've known Dibs forever. Just remember, if you have the hammer, swing it.
Thank you, Bob. Will do. I called Bob in 90. Thank you, Bob.